Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. For the past 6 weeks, I've been rehabbing after surgery to repair my rotator cuff. And yesterday I saw my surgeon Chris, and he was really happy with the amount of movement and the level of activation I've got in the muscles of the repaired tendons. When he saw the movement and felt the muscles, he was genuinely excited. And this got me thinking, what's contributed to the success of my rehab journey so far? And 3 practices really stuck out for me. In this video, I'll share several important benefits of continuing to train my uninjured side and also explain the science behind it. I'll share why consulting multiple experts was necessary for me to develop my rehab plan. And finally, I'll share a tip that helped me stay disciplined with my rehab work when my motivation started to fade. So let's get right into why I've continued to work out and why I've been training my uninjured side. Going into the surgery, one of the things I was really dreading was missing all of the sports and training that I love. Between ice hockey, BJJ, strength training, and handstands, I was easily training at least 10 hours per week. All this movement has a positive impact on my overall health and my mood. I know from experience that if I don't get the juices flowing for a few days, I start to feel pretty irritable and depressed. So I went into the surgery with a plan to keep myself moving. The first week after surgery, I went for long walks, covering at least 5 miles most days. And sometimes, because I couldn't sleep, because I was in a bit of pain, I'd wake up at like 4 in the morning, and I think instead of kind of like agonizing over the lost sleep, I'd just get up and go for my walk then, and I'd be back in the house by 6 a.m. and I covered 5 or 7 miles. So I got that sort of movement stimulus in for the day already. Once the wound was healed after 2 weeks, it meant I could get sweaty again. So I started to add some bike workouts to bring a bit more intensity. At this point, I also joined a second gym, one that had a belt squat machine, so that I could continue to train a big compound lift without putting pressure on my shoulder. I asked one of the coaches, Will, his opinion on training my uninjured side, and he pointed me in the direction of some really compelling research that meant I should continue to train my good arm. There's good evidence that the phenomenon of cross-education results in strength gains in the untrained side. This meant that one-arm workouts would help me maintain strength and muscle mass in my entire body, including my injured side, even when I wasn't working it. I really enjoyed these sessions. They gave me an opportunity to get creative with the programming and continue the strength training that I love. The stimulus massively helped my mood, but more importantly, they helped me stay connected with my goal of getting back to sports and restoring the highest level of functionality to my shoulder. I also managed to lace these workouts with a huge volume of rehab work. After each strength set of single arm bench press or belt squats, instead of taking a rest period, I would do a set of one of my rehab drills as active recovery. I'm so glad I came across this information. I feel like I'm going into the next phase of rehab fitter and stronger, and it's also kept me in the gym for the past 6 weeks, which meant I've had a lot more social interaction that I would have had if I'd have stopped training altogether for fear of developing some kind of imbalance. The next thing that's been critical to my recovery so far is taking ownership of my rehab plan. This doesn't mean I've been making it up on my own. I've been seeking expert advice from multiple physiotherapists and my osteopath. When I was considering surgery, one of the most important factors in the decision was the surgeon. Did I rate his skills, and did I trust him? The answer was obviously yes. Once the surgeon's work is done, the physiotherapist becomes the star of the show. This part of the process is as, if not more important than the actual surgery. That might sound like a big statement, but there have been studies where subjects have been given sham knee surgeries, which means they've had an anesthetic, their knee's been cut open and stitched back up, but they've actually not done anything to the inside of their knee. In many cases, the patients that have had the sham surgery do as well or even better than those who have had a real surgery. One possible explanation is that surgery increases buy-in, which improves adherence to rehab plans. So Basically, because they've had the surgery, people decide then they're going to put the hours into the rehab work, and that's what actually gets them out of pain and improves the functionality. My physios will be my guides for the next 12 months. And the cool thing is that unlike with the surgeon, where you have to choose one, you can see multiple different physiotherapists to get different perspectives. I've seen the NHS physios who are assigned to me by the hospital 3 times now, but it's been a different physio every time. And after the second appointment, I was sent away with the same set of exercises that I've been doing since day one. This really raised a red flag for me. It made me feel like I was receiving generic advice, and I decided I needed to get a second opinion. I wanted a physio who would consider me as an individual and see that I'm an athlete who's willing to put hours each day into the rehab process. I needed someone who'd been through what I'm going through, who knew what it's like to be injured and not be able to do the sports that you love. Someone who wanted to help me get back to the highest level of functionality as quickly as possible. This is where Liam came in. Liam is a physiotherapist and a former professional ice hockey player, and I saw him a month after my surgery, the day after I saw my other physiotherapist. So let's compare the advice I was given. So starting with the similarities, both physios gave me drills that would move my shoulder joint through flexion, abduction, and external rotation. But the NHS physios wanted me to follow a totally passive approach. They literally told me not to activate the muscles of my right arm at all. Liam, on the other hand, was advocating an active assisted approach. This means I do the movement with my injured side, but I assist with my uninjured arm. Basically, I'm adjusting the level of activation in my injured side and the level of assistance I'm offering with my good arm to keep the pain below a 4 out of 10. Liam did explain that this is a less conservative approach and does include some risk. So it was my responsibility to kind of err on the side of caution and build the levels of activation up slowly. This active assisted approach feels so much closer to the way we normally move. Holding my arm limp and moving it with the other arm just felt totally unnatural. This passive approach just isn't the way the brain and body usually work to produce movement. Yes, it's a useful technique to keep the joint moving in the first couple of weeks after surgery, but I wanted to progress back to moving in a more active, natural way as soon as possible. The other big difference between Liam and the other physio is that he spent a lot of time manually manipulating my shoulder. He said there was a lot of stiffness there and that the manual therapy would help deal with this. It also meant that as I see Liam week after week, he's getting to feel my shoulder and whether or not I'm making progress. The final expert I've been consulting is my osteopath, Chris. I've been seeing him for regular treatment for over 12 years, and he's helped me through many different injuries and niggles. Chris doesn't specialize in shoulder surgery rehab, but he does know my body and my training journey probably better than anyone else except me. He suggested that starting very light isometric contractions as early as possible could be helpful. Now, isometrics can often be associated with strength work, but I would say this is at like a high level of contraction, say 70% effort. Now imagine pushing with 3% effort. These gentle contractions were waking up my shoulder and maintaining the neural connection to the tissues. So even though this advice went against the passive approach, I didn't feel like I was putting a dangerous load through the repair, and I feel like these contractions help prime me for the next more active phase of recovery. So I've got my team of experts. Each time I see one of them, I'm considering their advice and integrating it into my rehab plan. So finally, let's talk about the 2 most important factors: volume and execution. Having the best program only counts if I put in the work. This means executing the drills with focused attention and doing enough sets each day. The total number of daily repetitions might be the biggest determinant of how much functionality I get back and how fast I get back to playing sport. I see stories in the news all the time of professional athletes who recover from tendon and ligament tears much faster than the schedules that are suggested for average Joes. I think this is because they have access to daily manual therapy, plenty of time to do their rehab and support with the process, and high levels of motivation to get their functionality back. I saw YouTuber Alex Hormozy saying that Lots of people are doing the right things, but they aren't successful because they either give up or they're not doing enough of the right work. Before I had the surgery, I knew the rehab process would be hard, but I also know that when things are hard, I want to do less or quit. I'm not a professional athlete, so I don't have a physiotherapist to coach me through every rehab session. So reminding myself of the hard work that I signed up for and the long-term goal of getting back to playing sport as fast as possible is important for me when my motivation starts to fade. So I've been dividing my rehab work into 2 blocks each day. One block during my workout where I'm kind of supersetting my strength work with my rehab drills, and that gets about 4 or 5 rounds of the rehab circuit done. And then the remaining 4 rounds I do in the evening after the kids go to bed. In addition to these dedicated blocks of time, once per hour, I also choose a drill at random and just do a single set. This kind of greases the groove and keeps my shoulder moving. In total, all of this work adds up to just over 2 hours of rehab every day. And I thought this was a lot until I watched the Andy Murray documentary, Resurfacing. He had 2 physiotherapists on his payroll and seemed to be rehabbing as a full-time job. His rehab from a hip replacement was successful, and he returned to win tournaments at the highest level of professional tennis. I was inspired by his story. It shows that if you put the work in, remote possibilities can be turned into reality. Basically, you get what you pay for, as in, you get the functionality that you pay for with training. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.